into submission. But really arguing as to what type of results are we having within our community. This is the place where our children are going to grow. This is a place where we're living as individuals, as human beings. Right? There's some sacredness that's involved, right? And when we have events like this and policies like that, and the cultural war out there on pornography and all these things, right? That relates to each and every one of us. That relates to each and every one of us, and how we're going to think about individuals. I don't want to give you this talk on be great Muslims, tazkiyatun nafs, avoid haram. That's one issue. But then there's another. That's you could say the negative aspect where you try to shun it. And then the positive approach is to really talk about these issues and say, how come we're not talking about the bigger issue on campus? How come we're not dealing with these issues that relate to a loss of life, and then all these other individuals, right? That we could look into and say we don't want other people going in that direction. Right? We want to look into it and say these things are evil, and they're not just evil because they're in the Quran or the Bible or things like that, or from a religious perspective. It has social consequences, and we're seeing the fruits of our labor. When are we going to wake up as a society? When are we going to wake up as a community and say enough is enough? The basic idea of all these social media and social network they're talking about is to pull in the data that you have submitted, your status that you have updated, the likes that you have, the songs that you listen to, the political affinity that you have. This is what they're pulling in, and this is what they're interested in. So they could sell you something. So all these Facebook ads that are on the sidebar that you're seeing, how come they match my interest? Right? How come they match my interest? How do they know that I like this? Right? I'm interested, even Islamic courses, right? How do they know this stuff? Well, we're selling it to them, right? We're giving it back to them. We're filling out a survey for them, and that's how they come back to us. So we have to start thinking about from both perspectives, inshallah. And with that, inshallah, I'll end. And if you have any questions, concerns, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide you, because I don't really have much answers. So, Jazakallah khair. Thank you for listening, and salam alaikum.
Are there any questions?
Sorry. You mentioned a hadith about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covering the sins of man on the day of judgment, and because he also covered his sins,
or a woman,
or a man or a woman, and because the sins were hidden here in this life. If a person's sins are exposed, if his sins are exposed in this life, would they be also exposed in the day of judgment, or would they be hidden? Would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
When you find somebody that who has something that goes out and then is being exposed, then you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may He protect you, right, from that calamity. It's really a test for individuals. People do go haywire. We know this stuff, right? Depending on the circumstances, right? So it's a test, and this is how we should look. We should not look at people as this is a punishment from God, but rather we should look at all of it as a test in this dunya. Like, we don't know which one's a punishment and which one is a reward. So what we should be looking for is, if I could help, right? If I have that capacity, then I'm there to help. I'm not there to condemn people. And that's one of the reasons why the Prophet ﷺ, when he was sent, he said, I'm not there to condemn people to hell. His job was Bashiran wa Nadhira. Right? People ask him, what's Bashir? Bashir is somebody who gives glad tidings. Jannah is waiting for you. The doors are open. You have to just walk through these doors. Take the steps towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what Bashir is. And Nadhir is a warner. It says there's fire too. Be careful. Don't fall into the pit. So he was there but he wasn't somebody who was like over the top, forcing people to, this is the right way and you have to adopt to it. That's not what he did. So I hope that answers.
So obviously if you gossip about someone, then your intentions aren't pure. But what if like your intentions are like pure for telling someone about something? Like, what are the etiquettes for pure intentions? Like, if you're a parent and you know that your kid isn't hanging around at the outdoor crowd and like you don't want to interrogate them, so you know you might want to.
It always works.
No, I mean, but like, and then also, you know, if you're a friend and you know that your friend isn't up to something good, but you know, you want to tell them or you want
Right.
to tell someone who can help. So, like, how would you? What are the etiquettes for that?
I'll just open it up to the audience. How would you give nasiha to your friend who's doing something fishy and it really stinks, and you want to really tell that person, right? But then you don't want to come off as, dude, man, you're just like going to hell, right, or something like that, right? You don't want to do that, right? Is that the question?
Yeah, like basically, what are the etiquettes for any pure intention? Like, you don't want to tell someone about something just to gossip about them, but you care about someone.
I think like one of the first things I heard is that if you see, for example, someone doing something bad, or even if it's something private, or if it's your friend or not a friend, if you think it's going to lead to something worse, then you should like really like kind of like make that judgment before you take before you do anything else. So like if you know that your friend is drinking, for example, and then you approach them, for example, in a state when they are drinking, and then it'll lead to something worse if they try to fight you or anything that will like escalate the situation. So I think the first step in like trying to like amr bil ma'ruf is to like kind of make sure that's not going to lead to something worse.
That's a great advice. Anybody else? Hossein?
Yeah, you were asking, how would you tell it to them without telling them, like, hey, you're doing this wrong? Well, you taught us the story of Hassan Hussein. He's an older man who was making wudu in the incorrect way, and he was there and they know how to do it. So out of respect, they didn't go up to him and say, hey, you're doing it incorrectly. They put on like sort of like an act of, one of them doesn't know how to make wudu and the other one was teaching him how to do it. So you can do it in some sort of manner, so you don't make the person feel really bad about themselves.
Who was your teacher, man? That's a great story. Did you get that too? That's great. Like what Khalid mentioned, and I remember that what Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned. Like he was with his students, and one time these guys they saw like some of these Mongols, right? Some of these Muslims who were actually Muslims in name, but their acts were like really far off. So it was like Fajr time or like Salat time, and I think they were all drunk and they were asleep. So one of them goes, hey, it's Fajr time, should I go and wake them up? And these were like big warriors, right? And Ibn Taymiyyah said, if you like to, you could go and then they'll come after you and me to cut our necks, right? So what do you expect from these people? Basically what he was saying to them is, they're not in the state where they could obey or they could be people who are going to be on the path, right? So you have to give da'wah or you have to do amr bil ma'ruf or nahi anil munkar in the appropriate time. And about the intention, I think it's, with intention it gets very tricky, but I think what you want to do is you ask Allah to purify your intention. Don't assume you have a pure intention. Just ask Allah to purify your intention. And if you feel that I still have some riyah or some like show off or that kind of thing, or maybe I'm doing it to degrade this individual, then ask Allah to purify your intention and do the right thing. Don't wait, shaitan's going to come to you and he's going to say, you're just a show off. You just want to be known as like the greatest alim out there, and you're just going to give them some ayat and hadith, and so you could be somebody who's knowledgeable and teaching these people about their deen and that they don't understand. So just always ask Allah to purify your intention. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Good.
There was another question.
Suhaib has a question. I was reading your mind, so. Wa alaikum salam.
To what extent do parents have the right to know what you're doing?
Say that again from the start.
To what extent do you have the right of privacy when it comes to your parents or someone who's in charge of you? And in organizations, those you are responsible for, to what extent do you have the right of privacy?
Yes. Well, that's the question. Yes, you do. Right? Even with your parents, right?
To what extent?
To what extent? That is really defined by your relationship with them, right? So, if you give me examples, I could maybe perhaps give you some more information.
I think he was referring to basically your actions, what you do outside of your house or in school. What rights do your parents have to know what you're doing right?
Oh, that they have to know?
Yeah.